What's going on, everybody? Hockey time here once again. Just wanted to upload a quick video. The eve of the men's NCAA hockey tournament is officially upon us. Games kick off tomorrow at 2. So, wanted to give you guys my prediction for this tournament, who I think the favorites are, who I think could be a potential dark horse, and all that good stuff. I'm going to do this on one of my favorite websites, Bracket Fights. You guys can check this out. It's basically tier maker, but for brackets. You upload your images and you plug them in and you go ahead. So, going to start with the Providence region here up top. The true 1 versus 16 matchup here, Boston College Eagles taking on the Michigan Tech Huskies. The Eagles really the runaway favorite to win this tournament. They've been the number 1 seed in the country for the majority of the year, of course, rivaled by their cross-city rivals, Boston University. In this first game, though, it's really just a battle of BC's extremely high octane offense against Blake Pietila, the goalie for the Michigan Tech Huskies. BC, of course, a ton of high caliber offense, a ton of NHL draftees here versus Michigan Tech, who again comes in as a team that doesn't have a lot of scoring firepower. Their leading scorer is actually a freshman, Isaac Gordon, who has 18 goals, 18 assists for 36 points in 39 games played. Again, that's their leading scorer. So again, it's really going to be a battle of Blake Pietila trying to hang on for dear life against this Boston College Eagles team. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to have what it takes to hang on, barring him having the game of his life. I think BC moves on in this one. Moving down to the 2-3 game in Providence, we have the Wisconsin Badgers taking on the Quinnipiac Bobcats. This is a pretty interesting matchup, in my opinion. The both of these teams really like structured defensive teams. Neither of them have a ton of scoring upside. For the Badgers, Cruz Lucius is really the leading guy for them. They only have 2 guys above 30 points. The other one, David Cillier. For the Bobcats, meanwhile, similar story. A few guys above 30, some returnees from their national championship team last year, Colin Graff, Mason Marcellus. So some returning faces here. And of course, again, both of these teams coached very, very structurally. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. As far as the goaltending goes, I think Wisconsin probably has the edge here. And again, in these single elimination games, it's always tough to kind of bank against the team with a good goaltender. And for the Badgers here, it's Kyle McClellan, who's been one of, if not the best goalies in the entire country. 36 games played, a 931 save percentage is unbelievable. A 192 goals against as well. So he's very, very strong, but I do think the Quinnipiac Bobcats are going to come out on top in this one. I think their depth, their veteran leadership, their experience is going to shine through in this game. And I do think they're going to just sneak past the Wisconsin Badgers in this one. Down to the Maryland Heights region, where we have arguably the tightest of the 1 versus 4 games of the 4 regions here. Michigan State taking on Western Michigan. Michigan State, of course, coming out Big Ten champions after taking down their rivals in the University of Michigan earlier in the week, taking on this Western Michigan team that's just built on grit and size and playing like playoff style hockey, which of course suits them very well for this tournament. The biggest star in this game, of course, Trey Augustine, the goaltender for Michigan State, helped lead the U.S. to gold in the World Junior. The main reason for this team's success really all year long, touting a 2.88 goals against and a 918 save percentage. Definitely the winner of the goalie battle in this one. It's going to be a tight game. I think if Michigan State doesn't come out hot, they're going to probably get put on their butts in the first period. But at the end of the day, I do think they have what it takes to take down this Western Michigan team, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this game go the distance and see a little bit of free hockey. But I do have Sparty taking the win in this one. Now, arguably the best of the 2 versus 3 games also taking place in this region. The North Dakota Fighting Hawks taking on the University of Michigan Wolverines. This game has all the makings of a banger. Both of these teams have a ton of talent. UND a little bit more defensively focused, though they have some firepower in their own right. And on the flip side of the script, the University of Michigan just a ton of offensive upside and not so much focus on the defensive side. For the Hawks, Jackson Blake, Owen McLaughlin, Cameron Berg, and Reese Gaber, the 4 guys up front leading the scoring. Those are the only 4 players they have above 30 points. Meanwhile, we head over to the Wolverine side. We have Rucker McGorty, Gavin Brindley, Seamus Casey, Dylan Duke, TJ Hughes, and Frank Nazar. You can throw Garrett Shifsky in there as well, all guys that have 30 plus points. They're really the only other team in the country, in my opinion, that can rival the depth of a team like Boston College and throw Boston University in there as well. This game's going to be a fascinating one. I do give UND the slight edge in goaltending as well. For the Wolverines, it's been Jake Barshevsky pretty much the whole year. He's been on and off. Some games he looks very strong, and other games he really doesn't look all that great. He did not look great in the Big Ten championship game against Michigan State. But at the end of the day here, I think University of Michigan has just so much firepower that it's going to be able to overcome this Fighting Hawks team. And I do think that Michigan gets the job done in a game that, like the first one in this region, is going to be a fascinating one and should be a very entertaining watch. Moving on to the Springfield region, the one-seeded Denver Pioneers taking on the UMass Minutemen. This is an interesting one. Despite Denver being, of course, the higher seed, UMass is basically playing this game in their backyard in Springfield, which is going to make this probably more interesting of a game than it otherwise would be. But all in all, I think this Denver team has more than enough skill, firepower, defensive strength, everything to take down this UMass team that really does not have a ton of talent, in my eyes at least. Denver's touting some really big names here: Jack Devine, Zeev Buyem, Samo Rizzo, all guys that have more than what it takes to lead this team, probably to the Frozen Four, but especially past this UMass team that really just doesn't have all that much firepower. Their goaltending been on and off for a lot of the year, which is a similar issue for the University of Denver. It'll very likely be Luke Pavic in net here for the UMass Minutemen. He was good. He's got a 920 on the year, a 275 goals against. So we'll see if he's able to carry this team through this game against Denver. They definitely don't have the greatest goaltending in the world. They've bounced back and forth between their two netminders really all year long, and that's been kind of their kryptonite in most of the games that they've not won. So if they have a really off night, there's always the chance that Denver doesn't win this game. But I think Denver's going to have more than what it takes to take down the Minutemen. Now, the UMaine Cornell game, this is another really interesting one, and I really struggled with who to take in this game. For UMaine, it's really a two-headed monster. Bradley and Josh Nadeau, the two brothers on this team, have carried this team through their season, as well as their goaltender, Alvin Boya, who originally was not supposed to be the starter. They have Victor Osman, who was arguably one of the better goalies heading into this year in the NCAA and just hasn't really turned out so great. Alvin Boya takes over the net, and he's been fantastic. A 201 goals against and a 916 save percentage on the season for him. The other notable name here, Lyndon Breen, the captain of this team. He's been here all 4 years, epitomizes what it is to be a college hockey player. Those are really the three big guys up front for UMaine. For Cornell, kind of a similar team to Western Michigan. They play a very defensive, very structured game. They do have some firepower up front in the likes of Gabriel Seeger, Dalton Bancroft, Kyle Penny, etc. All guys that can light the lamp. But again, the main strength here for these guys is their goaltender, Ian Shane. He's been fantastic all year, played damn near every minute of every game they've played. A 170 goals against and a 922 save percentage. One of the best goalies in the tournament, and I think he's going to steal this one away for Cornell. I did really bounce back and forth. If the Nadeau brothers go off in this game, I think UMaine's going to run away with it. But I think Cornell has what it takes to play that structured game, shut them down. They're going to be preparing for this all week, and I do think they take down the UMaine Black Bears. Though, as a New England kid, I would not be upset to see UMaine take this game. I do have Cornell winning this one, though, and probably another tight defensive battle. Down to the fourth and final region here, the Sioux Falls region, where the two overall seed Boston University Terriers taking on the RIT Tigers. And this is a really interesting 1-4 game as well. Of course, BU loaded with talent up front, notably Macklin Celebrini, probably a front runner for the Hobie Baker, 31 goals, 28 assists in 35 games, some dominant numbers with the likes of guys like Jack Eichel, formerly of BU as well. Also, Lane and Quinn Hudson, Jeremy Wilmer, Ryan Green, Luke Tuck, a bunch of very big names here for the Terriers. And then, of course, in net, Matthew Caron, the transfer who's come in and been very strong for them. He has had his moments where he's been a bit shaky, but overall has been very, very good here for the Terriers. Taking on an RIT team that's interesting. I think of all the 4 seeds, this one is really the one that's built to upset a 1 seed, maybe alongside Western Michigan. But Carter Wilkie, Cody Laskowski, Elijah Gonsalves, and Gianfranco Casaro are the big names here. They, like Michigan, have 6 guys at 30 or more points. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they play in the strongest conference. It's not a Hockey East. It's not a Big Ten. It's not even an ECAC. But I think this RIT team has a decent shot in this game. largely thanks to their goaltender Tommy Scarfoni, who's had unbelievable numbers all year, a 218 goals against and 928 goals or save percentage, excuse me, maybe the second best, if not the best goalie in this entire tournament. I actually have RIT upsetting BU here. I know it's a hot take, don't get me wrong, but I think of all the four seeds, this team has what it takes to beat a relatively young BU team. Granted, they were in the Frozen Four last year, but I like what this RIT team's got. I really, really like their goaltender, Tommy Scarfoni. I think I've seen enough mishaps from Karan this year that I don't have a ton of confidence in him. And I think the nerves from BU are probably still going to be there after kind of getting pounded by Boston College in the Hockey East Championship game. So I'm going to take the Tigers. I may live to regret that decision because I could very well see BU going on a run all the way to the national championship. But I felt it was only appropriate to have one of the number one seeds getting knocked off. And for me, I think BU is the most likely of the bunch. Now, the 2-3 game, another pretty interesting one. The University of Minnesota taking on the Omaha Mavericks. I don't have really a ton of feelings for how this game's going to go, to be completely honest. I think overall, Minnesota probably the slightly more skilled team. They bring back a lot of familiar names: Rhett Pitlick, Jimmy Snuggerud, Oliver Moore, Bryce Brodzinski, all some pretty talented guys. And then for the Mavericks, it's not a ton of high-end NHL talent. Their leading scorer, only 28 points. That's Tanner Lutke. Followed behind by his brother Griffin. So I don't know that I have a ton of faith in this Omaha team to get it done here. Their goaltending has been decent. Probably going to be Simon Ledkowski in net here, the 268 for him and a 912 save percentage. Meanwhile, Minnesota, it's very likely going to be their horse who's been in net for a lot of the year for them, used as close. He's been very, very good. 225 goals against and a 926 goals against average. Another one of those very strong goaltenders in this tournament. I think all in all, Minnesota probably just the stronger overall team here. Goaltending, defense, offensive firepower. I like this Mavericks team. I think they're very well rounded. Obviously, if your leading point scorer only has 29 points, you better be well rounded. But I just like what this Minnesota team has. They bring the experience, they bring the skill, the defense is there, and of course the goaltending there. So I do have the Golden Gophers moving on from the Sioux Falls Regional. All right, now that we've kind of covered all the big players for each of these teams, especially the teams that have moved on, I'm going to kind of rapid fire go through all of the regional finals all the way through to who I think my national champion is going to be. So the Providence final, Boston College taking on Quinnipiac. I think this will be a really good game. Ryan Pecknold is going to give Boston College all he's got, but I think at the end of the day, this Boston College team just way too skilled and too deep for any of the other teams in the Providence region. So I do have Boston College. Moving on here, though, Jacob Fowler will be tested more in this game than he will be against Michigan Tech. I can assure you of that. Michigan State taking on Michigan, a rematch of the Big Ten championship. And I think it gets flipped this time around. I think the Michigan Wolverines take it over the Michigan State Spartans. I just really like the firepower that Michigan's bringing to this game. I think if their goaltending can stay reasonably strong, I think they're going to have a really good argument for making a deep run here, maybe all the way to the national championship. But all in all, I just think they have the depth that Michigan State does not quite have. And if their goaltending can hang on, I think they're going to be okay. Now, Denver taking on Cornell. This was a tough one for me as well. Again, you guys know, based on my conversation about the UMaine Cornell game, how highly I think of this Cornell team. And I actually think they can get it done again against another of these really strong offensive teams. Again, I really like the goaltending, the structure they play with. I think this team plays a playoff style hockey pretty much all the time. Again, I know they're not in the strongest of conferences. However, I just really like what they're bringing to the table. So I do have Cornell coming out of the Springfield Regional, which would be a wild, wild upset for this 3 seed to take down the likes of Denver and UMaine if they're able to get this done. But again, I really like what this Cornell team's got. And then down to the Sioux Falls Regional Final, RIT taking on Michigan. I think this is where the Cinderella run ends pretty quickly here for RIT. Minnesota, I think, still has a lot of talent. As much as I like RIT, they're probably going to be pretty tired from this BU game. They're going to be holding on for sure against a team that's probably going to outchance them, outshoot them. And I think it's going to be on Tommy Scarfoni's shoulders once again if they want a chance in this game. But I think at the end of the day, the difference here is going to come from Minnesota just having that depth all around the rink. And then again, having that slight step up in net, I think is going to be the difference for them. So I do like the Golden Gophers. I don't know why they disappeared. The Golden Gophers over the RIT Tigers. Hmm. Not sure why this isn't working. There we go. Minnesota over RIT. Uh, we have our Frozen Four here. So Cornell, Minnesota, Boston College, and Michigan. This would be very interesting if we get to this point again. I don't know uh, if we get here how confident Cornell is going to be taking on a team like Minnesota, and the same story for Michigan taking on Boston College. We'll start going right to left here. So Cornell, again, playing with some good structure to this point. If they make it this far, Minnesota kind of the same deal. I think one of the more solid all around teams throughout the tournament. I do think this is where Cornell's run would come to an end if they make it this far. I like this Minnesota team enough. I like the depth they have, the goaltending, everything kind of fits really well. And I think they would be able to take care of the Cornell Big Red if they make it that far. And then Boston College taking on Michigan. If we get this game, holy smokes, it's going to be a barn burner. So much offensive talent on display between these two teams. I think Jacob Fowler once again would be tested much more in this game than he would be against the likes of Quinnipiac or Wisconsin, whichever of those teams come out. Of course, I have Quinnipiac, but once again, I think BC just too loaded all around, and I do think Jacob Fowler is a massive step up from what Michigan has in net. So I am once again going to take the Boston College Eagles. I know it's very chalky; they're the one seed in the entire country, but they're the one seed in the country for a reason. So I have them taking down the Wolverines, which means our final is a battle of maroon and gold. Boston College taking on the Golden Gophers. And frankly, I think if this is the matchup, I think BC walks away with this in a similar fashion that they did the Hockey East Championship against Boston University. Again, this team just has so much firepower all around. Great defense and fantastic goaltending from Jacob Fowler. I do think Minnesota would have a chance in this game. Of course, again, as we talked about in their matchup against Omaha, plenty of big names and a lot of talent for this team. I think if their goaltending can hold it all together, it would be probably the closest test that Boston College is going to get throughout the tournament. But again, I just think that they have all of what it takes to make this run and win the national championship for the first time since 2012, back when they won the Hockey East Championship and the national championship as well. So Boston College, my projected national championship in the Division One men's ice hockey tournament. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If any of you guys are NCAA hockey fans, who's the dark horse for you guys? I think there's a lot of fun teams here that could potentially make runs. Again, I really like RIT. I like Cornell. I even like what I see out of Maine, even though I don't have them coming out of their first round matchup. So let me know who you guys think has a chance to upset a team as much of a juggernaut as Boston College is. Am I completely snubbing Boston University? Lay it all out for me in the comments. Thanks as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe as well. It is free. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Hope you enjoy the games.